Downtown Oakland, just follow the beat. There are DJs in the mix, and the bartender has your favorite mix. Your mix, your mix. Hosted by Shayway and E-Pit on me. Shayway and E-Pit on me. Bring 2 songs on USB. 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 Be ready to rock when they call your name. Instigate, wait till you start to fade. 7:32, 11:30, 7:30, 7:32, 11:30, 7:32, 11:30, 7:32, 11:30. Support your local entertainers, a $5 cover, not a strainer. Support your local entertainers, a $5 cover, not a strainer. Wednesday night, power at the Pyramid. The Wednesday night hot spot. Wednesday night, power at the Pyramid. The Wednesday night hot spot.
Are you ready to honor the legacy of my brother and hip-hop legend Shock G and make a difference in the community? Show your support for the East Oakland Collective, EOC, by purchasing the new Shock G Humpty t-shirt designed by Shamari Smith. It's available at beatsforhope.com. My brother Shock G was a multi-platinum hip-hop pioneer and producer who was deeply committed to helping the community, culture, and music of his time. His vision for helping humanity was honorable and has inspired people to come together and see to those that need important attention and love. By purchasing the new Shock G Humpty t-shirt, you are supporting the EOC, which helps provide essential services in East Oakland. Together, we can make a difference as we honor Shock G's legacy and support our friends at the EOC. Get your Shock G Humpty t-shirt today.
Corner sharp like razor, ghost rider whip, neighbors yelling y'all crazy. E40 slang, vocabulary gravy. Hustle so strong, lead a whole block hazy. Curbside chatter, deals under street lights. Hustle on the corner like a fiend chasing green stripes. Knock steady, hitting speakers bark like a pit. Street level impact, the grand baseline crack from the trunk to the block. No way to turn back. Hands in the air, we gon' make this clap. Street level impact, yeah, we built for that. Street level impact, with a baseline crack from the trunk to the block. No way to turn back. Hands in the air, we gon' make this clap. Street level impact, yeah, we built for that.
What it do, what it do? I'm your host, Tycoon. We got Igor Beats on the ones and twos, and y'all listening to or watching another episode of Street Level Impact. This is episode 8, and I wish it was great. That's all I could say. We need to make it. We need to make the Bay great again. You understand me? I mean, of course they want to say "Make America Great," but you know we got to do that too. But we definitely got to make the Bay great again. First off, I want to, give a shout out to everybody that's listening, or watching us from wherever it is in the world that you're watching us from. Hopefully, we, helping you get through your day, and that's about it. It's a lot going on. We about to really get into it. It's a lot of stuff that I kind of wanted to go over because it's been so much happening in the last few weeks that it's ridiculous. So I don't know. Well, first thing is first. Before I even get started with all of this, I want to give a moment of silence to an artist, a teacher, and it's just she was a member of the same community that I'm in, you know what I mean? And we, tend to, surround ourselves in the same circles, but the artist Tish, otherwise known as Letitia Bobo, I want to give a moment of silence for her. She was actually a victim in a shooting that took place over the weekend. All right, and I just, want her family, want all her family and loved ones to know, that we send our condolences. It was a tragic loss, From my understanding, she was a great school teacher, middle school teacher, and was loved by a lot of people. And like I said, even just, from my dealings with her, she is overall a good person, warm-hearted person, and seemed like a people person, you know what I mean? And it's unfortunate that had to happen to her. And we're going to talk about it along with just some of the other stuff that's been going on lately because it's senseless, So I guess for those that don't know, or you might have heard if you paying attention to local news, but so last week, and I wasn't here. I was a little under the weather last week, but last week was First Friday. It's a monthly event that goes on in Oakland. Community event to bring everybody out and just celebrate the city. Now Oakland is one of those places where it has a reputation, both good and bad. As diverse as it is out here, and how lively it is, you got all these different ethnic backgrounds, and at the same time, we're very unique out here as well as our own local culture, the culture that we've developed, where we all in this big gumbo pot, you know what I mean? But everybody make gumbo, but everybody gumbo ain't the same, you know what I mean? You gotta have the right seasoning, and it's just something about the Bay Area, and various cities in the Bay Area, with Oakland being one of the main ones, is that just the mixture of it, is just different. From my understanding, a lot of people say there's nothing else like it in the rest of the world. Um, Recently in Oakland, I know that they just won an award, I guess, for like this as being the hot food spot, and tourists still come out here and a lot of different things. So that's, some of the good side. Some of the bad side is the violence. Um, I mean, and that's true as it is, it's violence in the inner cities, and Oakland is one that's always been, in the top or near the top of the list. You know what I mean? At least in the top 20 along the nation. But for those that live in Oakland, they can tell you that it is, but it isn't. Typically, especially how I grew up, you knew who had problems, or you knew who was doing what, and you if you wasn't doing nothing, you didn't have to worry about anything. Well, that's how it was when I grew up, because people tend to mind their business, but we also had rules as far as how we conduct ourselves, and that's the same thing for the streets. There's rules on how you conduct yourself, how you go about certain situations, you know, um, the term politics, if you will, we use that in the street. That's what we mean, it's certain politics, it's rules, it's a way to go about doing things. And, is over the years with, other generations coming up and stuff, it's been a lot more senseless stuff going on. So that helps to push the negative comments or the negative views that people have on the Bay Area, on Oakland, um, just in general, because some of the stuff is just reckless, just shootings, um, hit and runs, just all kind of wild stuff. So with that being said, that's what happened last week. Now, it was a celebration, like I was saying, supposed to be to celebrate the city, and everything, from my understanding, for the most part, started off good, during the day, because it's a daytime event that goes into the night. But I also did see on the internet that there were several fights and stuff that took place, involving different groups of people, young people, females, and I know everybody's out having a good time, but, like you said, you could tell it was senseless stuff. I mean, I know everybody's out drinking and enjoying themselves. It's supposed to be, but then it's like you got to look at what cost, or do it's about self control too. So you got to know when, okay, maybe I need to chill out. But aside from that, this is a quick sidebar question I have. But when did it become the norm to go out to an event or a party or a place where people are celebrating to go looking for trouble? And that's what I mean about the younger generation and a lot of the stuff being senseless, because it's like, why would you go to a place full of people just looking for a problem? Like, why aren't you going to enjoy yourself? I understand sometimes things happen in the moment, but ultimately, like, why are you, and you can't say subconsciously, because at the point when people are taking guns to events, and I say that because even First Friday, the actual festival in itself, it's for everybody. So it's an all ages event. It's people out there with little kids, babies and strollers. You know what I mean? I know they have one section where they got, the turf dancers, and all the dancers get together and they bring a lot of young kids out, you know what I mean? Teenagers, you know, and some even younger. I've seen some over there before, like 9, 10 years old. You know what I mean? Dancing and stuff. So it's like in fashion shows that they put together and all this different stuff. So it's like, why would you choose to go there with the intentions of, you know, possibly doing something to somebody, harming somebody, shooting a gun, you know, putting innocent lives at risk and in danger? I never understood that, and I don't think I will, because it just don't make sense. And that's what ended up happening on Friday. So, from my understanding, there was a show going on at a club after the first Friday event. So, you know, it's already packed down there, people down there. And then some individuals got into it inside of the venue, and then they started shooting at each other. Um, Tish actually caught a straight bullet, you know, as she was trying to, you know, remove herself from the area along with the other people, because the footage I seen, you know, they're inside the club. It was crowded, you know, and you could tell things happen fast, but it just seems so unnecessary. And that's where I'm at with it. You know, why is it, you know, why does it have to be that? You know what I mean? I should change the name of this show to Is It Safe Outside? Cause yeah, you know what, I mean, what was the purpose? What was the, and I'm in, you know, don't get me wrong, I'm outside too. I'm out in the street. You know, I'm normally I attend First Friday and these other events. You know, you never know when you see me walking through somewhere. But again, that's not my intentions, is to go looking for problems. You know, I pretty much go where I want to go without worry, because I don't be having those type of problems with people. But at the same time, I shouldn't have to fear for my safety because of other people doing something senseless. And that's just, you know, my 2 cents on it. Um, well, no, I got two more. The other 2 cents that I want to put out there, and I'm about to go into detail about this. Like I said, I think that's going to be the theme for today is, you know, is it safe outside? Because how is it that people were able to even get into the venue with guns in the first place? You know, the incident didn't take place outside, it took place inside. And, you know, there's a protocol, a procedure when you're entering venues for events, especially on Friday nights, Saturday nights, especially when the event is piggybacking off of a monthly event that the city is doing. You know, the streets are packed. The streets are packed, and you know that, hey, you're gonna have a packed night at your venue. You know, you would think that's no different than, you know, Super Bowl, for example. And we had Super Bowl going on out here the whole week, the Super Bowl events and Super Bowl weekend. Basically, there was some at the end, a couple of shootings and some events, but it happened outside. You understand what I'm saying? And again, is sometimes stuff be senseless. The shooting that happened with the football player, from my understanding, was senseless. You know, it was people was mad they weren't allowed in the club. Well, that was why. Most likely because you had a gun on you. You know, but for that to happen, what does that say about the establishment? What does it say about the venue? What does it say about the venue staff? Because everybody had to go through security. So, was there no, you know, you're supposed to search people. Well, not necessarily search them, but, you know, you're supposed to wand them down with the metal wand. Or I work security also, so I kind of know how it goes. You know, you search bags, typically you don't let guys in with bags, of course, so but women, you check their purses. And as far as, men, if they look like they're wearing bulky clothing or like they, clothing where they can hide something under it, you first try to wand them down with the metal detector to make sure there's no, knives or guns. And if you have to, sometimes, you do a quick pat search along with checking IDs. That's the procedure for entering any type of venue. And that's the security's role at those venues typically too. So, and I know it could be crowded, it could be a busy night. I could see one getting in by accident. I find that even hard to believe if you're doing your job. Knives a little smaller, but guns. And then not only that, more than one gun got in. And based off the footage that I seen and pictures of the people that were involved, I mean, I don't want to say it like that, but we talking youngsters, younger than me. I mean, skinny jeans and small shirts. There was some individuals with hoodies on too, but you mean to tell me that you couldn't tell that they had something on them? You can't really conceal nothing with some of the ways they be dressing nowadays, So how was it that all of these people were able to get these firearms in there? I do believe Igor said that we got a clip, so we want to show the clip real quick just so y'all can kind of see where I'm coming from. You know what I mean? It should be coming up right now. I did. Oh, I can't. It's a delay on where I'm watching. But yeah. So if y'all look up there, y'all can see right now what's going on. I don't necessarily want to point nobody out, but you can see where it's hard for me to see it. Yeah, so that's after, and then that's when he's shooting back. I can't see it, it's not taking up the full screen. But, okay, there we go. So, I mean, like I said, if y'all looking, y'all see it's crowded in there, but who where is it, like I said, security. Like, you had one job, Now, if you didn't feel safe enough to, to even address these people as they come into the door, you shouldn't be doing security, first of all, At the same time, there should have been more than one security. And yeah, I mean, you guys can, as y'all can see how, what took place, that it started off, they was, looks like two individuals, either was arguing, they recognized each other, whatever it was, but, after a little back and forth, it went to the next level from one pushing one back and then just pull the guns out. Like, it's crazy. And like I said, pulled guns out, multiple guns. So I don't even understand how that even happened, especially like I said, if given the environment, it's supposed to be a heightened security level, but that's where it starts. I mean, accountability is everything. So, I hope that the venue got good insurance, but according to this video, I hope the security company got some good insurance, because again, according to the video, it's not looking good at all. It's not looking good at all. And, in addition to Tish being shot, there was a total of 7 people that were shot. Out of the 7, 2 of them passed. It was Tish passed, and the other gentleman, if you guys just watched the video that y'all see, he got shot. Um, it's senseless. It's senseless. But then it's like, okay, what about the other shooting victims? What about the rest of the people that was just in the venue? Period. Whose lives was all put at risk. Um, you know, Again, like I said, I hope y'all got good insurance and a good lawyer, because I don't know if we gonna see that spot open back up. I don't. I've heard about it. I ain't never been in there. You know, and if I have, it was probably when it was under a different name. But right downtown is just, it's not a good look. It's not a good look, especially, and that's the other part of the safety segment that I really wanted to talk about, because how safe is it? I mean, if you're in the street, you're in the street. Some things you can't control. It's understandable. Being at a venue like that is a controlled environment. It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be preventative measures in place for that type of stuff to not happen at all. There's also a capacity limit. There's a capacity limit at venues. It looked in there like it was shoulder to shoulder in there. So, are you telling me that there's a possibility they were over capacity? So much as to where there wasn't enough security, because, for a certain amount of people, you're supposed to have a certain amount of security guards. And like I said, depending on the type of venue, they do heightened security. So, the way that was looking, there should have been one or two security roaming around, as well as whoever's at the door, and they might have, but even if they did, somebody dropped the ball, and it was definitely whoever was at the front door. As far as who's on the inside, maybe you need to pay a little bit more attention to your job. Because if you were inside the venue, and if you know how to read the room, you would have easily been able to identify some suspicious looking activity, like some people talking to each other aggressively, or, body language tell you everything typically before it even take off. You could tell. If you can look and see, just like how I got this hood on right now, but if I'm walking around like this inside of a club venue during a show, something's wrong. Something's a little off about that. It's already dark in there. What am I in there with a hood on like this for? Now right here, don't get me wrong, y'all. The light is, I'm trying to make sure the light ain't in my face necessarily. And at the same time, I'm not wearing a hat right now. I normally wear hats, but that's a whole nother conversation that we'll have later on. But typically, this is out of the ordinary. It looks out of place. It looks out, don't look normal. Just like being at a venue, and while everybody else is dancing and drinking and having a good time, you see people just walking around like this with the stone face, mugging, hard stares. Those are indicators that something is going on, something ain't right. Somebody might see somebody that they don't like, something happened, they don't get along, whatever the case may be. But any and everything from that, you should be able to kind of sense it, if you're paying attention. Especially when you're talking about groups of people. Because from what it looked like to me, it was more than one group. So at that point too, me as a security guard, I'm paying attention. Hey, it's a group of people in here. You know that because you let them all in together anyway. See what I'm saying? So you let them all in together. They all came in at the same time. So, you automatically identify who is with who. And then once they're inside the venue, you should easily be able to pinpoint if something is about to happen because of the way that each group is exchanging amongst each other. I've been a part of that before. I done been inside the club and hey, somebody that I was with, they seen somebody that they had problems with in the club. They came back over to the group where we was at and said something to us. At the point they said something to us, we looking around to see where they. Oh, you talking about them over there? Okay, and then we moved on them. You know what I'm saying? We proceeded to demonstrate. You know, but those, like I said, there's a lot of indicators because you could tell. It's like, hey, hold on, why is this group over here huddled up? You know what I mean? Why is this one person talking and they looking dramatic? You know what I mean? They talking with their hands or pointing, or you see as one person talking, you see the other group looking that way and vice versa. So paying attention is very important because this all could have been avoided. So how safe are we? Because if the people that are supposed to be doing their jobs aren't doing their jobs, are we outside at our own risk? And I know what y'all saying, like, yeah, we are. But I want to switch that up for a minute. Okay, because there's been other stuff going on out here recently too, which, like I said, I find it shocking when they was just doing all, just a few months ago, the president was trying to send the National Guard here to take over the streets. They were saying it was too much violence. It was too much stuff going on with all the break-ins, the car break-ins, the I don't know, I'm missing the word right now, but everybody was just, running in the stores like it was the purge all of a sudden, and just, all these different jewelry stores, but regular stores too. I remember you couldn't even go to the gas station. They was running in the gas stations with their cars, trying to take out safes and, all this crazy stuff. So the president was like, no, we need to put a stop to that. We need to take our cities back. And so then he started deploying National Guard in certain places. Well, when it came to the Bay Area, the leaders out here all banded together and, to try to speak up along with, the tech companies and different CEOs and stuff, say, hey, no, well, we're actually working on it. We're bringing crime down, and you guys don't need to come out here. Our numbers actually show that crime is going down, and they were right. Some of it was going down, which, like I said earlier, people have positive and negative views when it comes to our area, because there's violence everywhere. That doesn't make it okay, and that. I'm not saying it like it's a good thing, but sometimes things aren't as extreme as they make it seem, or if they are, they're isolated incidents. It might happen once over here and once over here, but it's not just happening every day. But the fact that, like I said, a lot of these incidents are senseless and really dangerous is what's making it the problem. There was some other incidents that just happened recently. Last week, which I know they were doing the Chinese New Year parade and stuff took place. The Lunar New Year parade took place over the weekend in San Francisco. But on Friday, just this last Friday, the same Friday as the incident happened in Oakland, somebody was stabbed in Chinatown during the day. Just random, like a random citizen, standing at a stoplight waiting to cross the street, waiting for the light to change, and an individual out of nowhere just walked up to him and stabbed him randomly and walked off. That's not safe. That's not safe. A few weeks ago, I don't know if we talked about it, but I know y'all seen it where, you know, the the mayor's car got stolen. The mayor of Oakland, you know, the car that she travels in, you know, from downtown, from basically from the office's garage. This is a city garage that we're talking about. That also has attendants, a security, if you will, in the garage. So you ask yourself, well, how did they get out of there with that? You know, um, the police headquarters, I believe, downtown Oakland, got broken into last week. The police station. They broke into the police station to steal a radio. Now they arrested the person that did it, but that's after the fact. How do you break into the police station? You know, also last week what happened was the mayor of San Francisco. He was out with his security detail, which are police officers, um, and was involved in a situation downtown San Francisco where one of the officers actually got into it with a unhoused person, excuse me, on the street, and got dipped on their neck. You know, so how safe is it? Um, and I know y'all saying like, damn, all that going on, yeah. And there's a lot of variables to all of it, and I want to break them down. But overall, I'm just looking at exactly, what we say. How safe is it? Um, the police chief, out here, they don't even have. They're still looking for a police chief for Oakland. You know, it's gonna be a couple months. Takes a few months process, I guess. So they're, you know, weighing their options right now. But how many police chiefs have we went through in the last few years in Oakland? Yeah, I was about to say 3 or 4, or something like that. But you know, why is that? Now, is it because it's dangerous? Yes, I believe so. But I also believe it's some of the politics that are involved, and this was spoke on before, that somewhat makes it incapable of them doing it, makes it hard for officers to do their job. I think it's a combination of both. I think it's a combination of both, and, there's other reasons why, as far as what's going on politically and economically, but what are we supposed to do? You know, like I said, I can't. Like I said, they had one situation where, okay, now for example, the incident with the Mayor Daniel Libre, is that how you say his last name? I think so. And he's a young mayor. He's one of those that he outside, he trying to be seen. And ain't nothing wrong with that. But in his situation, I guess they were driving down the street, and as they were driving down the street, there was some gentlemen, I guess, in the middle of the street. And I think they were driving through like an alleyway or something, or one way in the city. And like I said, shout out to that mayor. He's one of those that, from what I've seen, compared to other people, he's really trying to be outside, active, and hands on. If you look on social media or you look on the news every day, he's somewhere in the city, whether it's, at a small business or somebody's organization or school. He's out, doing what he's supposed to do, politicking. Um, and he doesn't seem to be afraid to, get out and, deal with citizens on a one-on-one basis. So shout out to him for that. But that's what was going on in this case, where they were driving, I guess some individuals in the street, blocking the street or whatever. He got out of the car to address the individuals. Along with him getting out, his security detail got out with him, which, like I said, are also police officers. And then the situation took a different turn. Now, I know a lot of y'all thinking, oh, well, hey, why is y'all, that's what they get. No, that's not necessarily the case. But the unhoused person, from my understanding, was having verbal back and forth with the mayor and with the officers. But the officer took it to the next level by assaulting. By definition, he pushed the individual. So then he pushed the individual, and that man got up and, got to handling his business, and overpowered the officer. He was arrested. Of course, they called backup and everything. He was arrested, but actually, as of today, he just got released. And I think that the charges were getting dropped. Because the video, there's footage of all of this, and it shows that the individual didn't initiate it, that the officer actually initiated the physical conflict by pushing that individual. And that's an abuse of power. So like I was saying too, it's not safe for more than one reason. I mean, stuff like that happens. We don't feel even safe with these officers. Because some of them, they abuse power. They don't use the right judgment. If they have been trained, they act like they've forgotten their training. And even in some cases too, a lot of these officers is coming from other places. So again, they have to adjust to this particular pot of gumbo, like I was speaking of earlier. How diverse it is, and but just culturally, how how much it is a mixture of everything. But it's also, it's the spirit, the soul, the history of this region and these cities. Whether you want to use words like liberal or other words, but as far as when it comes to not just activism or different things, but we're a place that people stick together, people stand up for themselves. We stand up for ourselves and for our rights. And typically, like I said, the Bay Area I grew up in was, don't start nothing, don't won't be nothing. I ain't gonna kill nothing, but I ain't gonna let nothing die. So you're not just gonna talk to me any kind of way or do anything that you want to do. Whatever takes place is gonna have to be within reason. So when you look at some of that stuff, it's like some of these people with these jobs, they aren't doing things within reason. Some of them either have been poorly trained or some of them need to be retrained. Because they've gotten a little too comfortable with being able to do things their way on the job and get away with it. So I think that that's one thing, because, of course, we don't feel safe. We don't necessarily feel confident that they're going to do their job accurately, and that's an example, when you have certain officers that abuse their power, abuse their authority, or certain political figures. I will commend the mayor because, like I said, from my understanding, when he seen that the two, the individual and his security, the officer was going back and forth. Hey, he backed out of the situation. I'm pretty sure he tried to intervene and, and talk it out with the people, but, at least he did that. I'll give him that. But again, once it looked like an unsafe situation, he removed himself. But some of us aren't that lucky. Some of us aren't that lucky. For example, the individual, hey, he's unhoused. He don't have nowhere to go, number one. But number two, that don't mean pick on him, And at the point you pushed him, you put him kind of in a position where he didn't have no choice but to defend himself. So then it's like you put a false sense of fear in people, because the way the news portrayed it at first was like, it was just some random person being violent on the street. And there's a lot of that going on too. Like I said, senseless stuff. You got people out here that just choosing to do wrong. But you also have a lot of people out here that are, on or off of their meds and, not thinking in their right mind. And all of that, we have to take into account when we're outside and dealing with these people. But the real reasons is why is that even happening? It wasn't always that level of violence or craziness on the streets. Not saying it like I'm a tough guy, but from all my life I can remember, even on some of the most dangerous streets, you were still able to walk around. As long as you was minding your own business, you didn't have nothing to worry about because it didn't have anything to do with you. But now, what I've noticed is with the closure of, with budget cuts and the closure of programs and facilities, this is the outcome is you have, like I said, a lot of people that are, on medication or supposed to be on medication. They're outside, on drugs, not taking their medication, that creates a safety issue because you don't know what they'll do, So that one element tied in with the fact that the people whose actual job is supposed to be to protect and serve, that they're not doing their job neither. And I don't just want to make it about people abusing their power, because you got some that just don't do their job. I've noticed that too. Like when they was having a lot of these break-ins and stuff at these stores, or even like, the high, people like hit and runs or different things involving vehicles where these officers, and it's new generations of officers. So we got young officers now, inexperienced, new on the job. A lot of them, if they, moved here from somewhere else, they still new to the area and everything. But some of them are actually terrified of their job. Some of them, you could tell they avoid certain conflict, or they avoid addressing certain issues. I remember somebody's car being stolen, and it was an officer like a block away. So then the victim, because it happened in front of their house, they're coming outside trying to get, the officer's attention. Hey, that's my car right there. They're stealing my car. Well, the officer doesn't go after the car. Instead, they sit and get on the radio as if they're going to wait for backup to come. Well, by that time, the car is already gone. Do your job. Do your job. This is, you signed up for it. That's what comes with it. But that right there lets a citizen know that they can't really have faith in you. to keep them safe, to protect them. You're not taking no initiative. I like I was saying too, even about like break-ins and stuff. I've seen video footage before, or I've actually witnessed it where people are breaking into a store and then hopping in cars, driving off. The police not necessarily even pursuing them. Oh, well, we're not allowed to, to pursue them like high speed pursuits and different things like that. So you just letting them get away with it? And before they changed the law, that was when the retail theft was so big, it was the same thing. It was like, oh, well, technically, it's a misdemeanor. So even if you do catch them, you have to catch them in the act. And even if you do catch them and take them in, if it's under a certain amount, they're getting released. So that's the other part of the system. Well, like I said, they do have to be accountable and responsible because it's their job to keep their citizens safe. Because if ain't nobody safe, ain't nobody going to work. Even with these different strikes that was happening in some of these industries, safety was an issue that was brought up. I know in the medical field it was happening because nurses, they couldn't even walk to their cars without necessarily being, targeted to be robbed. Like I said, anybody just, being at a gas station. So I think that, and I find it funny that, they claim they addressed it. And for certain events, like when the Super Bowl came, it was, oh, well, now we're going to have all this extra support, Highway Patrol, Sheriff's Office, or officers being sent out from other counties during these events and different things where it's all this money involved. But outside of that, you guys can't take any measures to take care of it on a day-to-day basis. And I know I'm getting long-winded here, but I got to get it out of my system because, like I said, I'm seeing it too. And it doesn't make sense. So, again, like I asked, how safe are we? Hit and runs. I seen something on the news today about I guess regarding AAA, and according to AAA, there's been an increase in hit and runs out here. I can attest to that. I was recently the victim of a hit and run. My issue is, and there's a couple elements here. First of all, no, I understand. We all understand where hit and runs originate from. You got people out here that are unlicensed or inexperienced or driving recklessly. When I say that, I also mean not just unlicensed, but driving unregistered vehicles. I remember there was a time where it wasn't as much of that going on because police was actually doing their job, actually pulling people over, citing them for, expired tags or things of that nature, or for reckless driving. And, the presence was different. Nowadays, shit, you drive by an officer, they on their phone. When the law, and I never understood that either, because the law is supposed to be nobody can be on a phone or on a device while operating a vehicle. But when you look at an officer, they damn near got a 14-inch TV screen sitting in the front, you know what I mean? On top of them being on their phone. So how is they enforcing the rules or enforcing the laws when they not even following them? You know, that's hindering them from actually doing their job. And it's, you know, unfortunately, we're having to pay a price for it. You know, I think ultimately if they were doing, and not just on the streets, it happens on the freeway as well. You know, I commute every day, and the lack of officers that you see actually patrolling on the freeway and doing their job, you can notice the difference. Now, again, this highway patrol in certain cities, they have, you know, actually dispatched some of their officers to help patrol the cities. Um, but other times, again, you know, when I'm driving past them, you don't see them doing their job. You just see them eating up hours, basically. You know how that go. You know, you just driving around necessarily for a presence, and you know, like driving down the street is one thing versus actually driving down the street paying attention. You know, getting on the freeway and driving for a couple exits, getting off, and then getting right back on to go in the other direction. You know, that's not necessarily doing your job. You're just trying to make it look like you're doing your job. If you're actually supposed to be, you know, stationed at different parts on the freeway or on the street, you know, actually, you know, keep your head on swivel. Look around and to pay attention to what's actually going on. You know, don't just go from one place to another. You know what I mean? Especially, or if you do see somebody doing something, go after them. Seatbelt laws, anything, because you never know. I mean, all of those, just like we was talking about with security, those are certain indicators that something's out of place. Even a seatbelt. I mean, we all know that. Hey, the seatbelt law is just for that. Somebody driving over the speed limit, you know, over the posted speed limit in certain areas, whether it's on the freeway or the street, you know, that's an indication, hey, something's going on. You know, be attentive and do your job. I think that if they crack down on some of that, you know, then we wouldn't have these issues. Along with, like when we talk about hit and runs, what's the punishment? You know, I filed a report because, like I said, I was recently a victim of a hit and run. But what are they actually going to do about it? What are they actually going to do about it? You know, when they catch the person, or what? You know, how is that person going to be held responsible? Because that's the other side of it. You know, for those of us that are victims of those situations, you know, worst case scenario, somebody could lose their life from a hit and run situation. And there's a lot of those going on where people haven't survived, you know, so that's, you know, that's vehicular manslaughter or whatever, you know what I mean? But that's serious. And that's the type of stuff that needs to be addressed. So, you know, hey, I'm all for it. You know, you catch somebody doing that kind of stuff, they should really be held accountable. I think the consequences should be a little stricter, you know. And maybe we do that just like DUIs, you know. Of course, when they started raising, you know, the stakes on, you know, what happens with DUIs, it seemed like DUIs started to go down. You know what I mean? Did nobody want to get sick because they do send people to prison for DUIs, you know. So it's like, I think after, you know, word got out that people was actually getting sentenced and actually doing time, then the narrative changed. You know, a lot of people started to wise up, and you know, I'm not even gonna take that chance. I'm not even gonna chance it. I think the same thing should happen with hit and run. You know, suspects or people that, you know, are found guilty of doing that, because like I said, somebody could lose their life in a situation, um, let alone the amount of damage and harm, not just to their property, but to them. Like I said, I'm sitting there right now trying to figure out what to do because I'm almost out of a vehicle, basically. My vehicle is damaged and needs to be repaired. And, I wasn't in the car by myself either. So, one of my passengers was injured. And these are type of things that, they have to remedy it. You can't just go on and, the victim is just out of luck, getting the even shorter end of the stick because you're not doing your job. Like I said, how safe are we? Because at least, at least it could balance out a little bit if the people that are supposed to do these things actually do them. Um, all this talk about budgets in all of these cities and in the state for that matter. You have all these different talks about budgets and the city's budget, this and that. It was just a few years ago that you guys put all these new street lights and cameras and stuff in place. Just 3-4 years ago. In that time, they haven't even been operating, most of them. So what was the point? And honestly, I want to say even longer than that. In the last 10, correct me if I'm wrong, but the last 10 years. So the last 10 years, you guys are, you claim that you're quote unquote making all these different upgrades, we're trying to fix the streets. That's a whole nother conversation about these potholes and stuff, because you see a lot of construction being done, but you necessarily don't see it being done because you don't really see stuff getting fixed. You only see it in certain areas. The rest of the areas, the streets is tore up, raggedy, and that leads to reckless driving, because in some cases people ain't driving reckless. They trying to avoid tearing up their car. They wouldn't have to do that if the roads wasn't messed up. There's no reason to swerve, to another lane if you didn't have to do it to avoid, a foot, 1 to 3 feet long pothole. We already dealing with narrower streets. But again, these laws, some of them, like I said, y'all too busy going back and forth on them about what? Over money? Over what the money should go to? Safety is important. Structure is important. Infrastructure is important. The system, the systems are important. You know what I mean? The certain aspects of them, so we need to focus on those if we want other stuff to fall into place. Because all of it, all the way across the board, just looks like it's crumbling down. They were asking people how they felt about it, and I can agree. I kind of feel the same way. Is that it's not fair all the way across the board, because as a victim of a hit and run, here I am now out of a vehicle, or property damage, just like with a store, even with the stores and the break-ins, you got property damage, you're taking losses. In some instances, people are actually getting hurt, but there's no justification. There's no accountability. You guys aren't pursuing these people. So there's no justice being done nowhere, because You're not pursuing and apprehending these people for breaking the law. And then at the same time, when it comes to things like insurance, you know, I don't even know what insurance is for anymore. Because the insurance isn't taking care of people that are in these situations. You know, if you, depending on, you have to have a certain type of insurance or pay a certain type of money. And even in some of those instances with full coverage, you know, from my understanding, there's people still have trouble when they've been in an accident by uninsured motorists because they're not being held accountable. You know, the uninsured motorists, typically they ducking and dodging the system, and they're able to get away with it. You know, nobody's, actually, collection agencies or anything, they're not actually pursuing these people, and that's the whole thing is why not? These people have committed crimes or, they owe money, they like I said, they cause property damage. There needs to be some, there needs to be some resolve, some kind of solution, whether it's fines or whatever it is. But yeah, they're supposed to be required to pay that. The victim shouldn't have to go through further turmoil to try to pursue these people, and even along the way, you're having to deal with even that much more BS because of the insurance companies or even because of the police. Because typically now, if you get in an accident, the police don't show. You're supposed to file a report. Now depending on how serious it is, if you call 911, somebody will be dispatched to you. But that depends. That could take forever. And a lot of times they just tell you, hey, you need to just file the report online. File a report online. And you know what? I did file a report online. And it took a week for it to get approved. A week. That makes no sense. Why should I have to wait a week? What if I can't wait a week? The person is long gone. By that time, I shouldn't have to wait 30 minutes necessarily. The way that this, don't get me wrong, but the amount of officers and all these substations and different things, and officers are supposed to be covering certain areas on their shifts. You shouldn't have to wait that long for an emergency response or for a police response. I don't get it. So I definitely think, and I know some of it's happening right now, but I think they need to be a little bit more thorough when it comes to looking at these budgets, when it comes to where the money, allegedly is being spent. Even officers, yeah. I'm not no YN no more. Hire more officers. Or actually assign them to positions or allow them to get out and do their job if that's what it's going to take to keep the streets safe. Because the next step is the National Guard, or it just being chaos. And that's at every level. And we dealing with that too. We could talk about it for a quick second, but I know y'all seeing that all day, every day about this war that we're in. We're officially in a war right now. Okay? With a whole nother country. Do you know, Igor, that Donald Trump is the first president within a year is basically then attacked 8 different countries. 8 different countries in 1 year. You just want problems with everybody. But in the process of that, you're spreading us thin. You're making us vulnerable. Why? Because it's weakening our structure economically. Because we sitting here now, we having to send troops over here, send troops over there. So that weakens our structure as far as our military and our defense systems, because you got them spread out all over the place. And not only that, what about what's going on right here at home, right here in our country? It's like I said too. Before we focus on what's going on in these other countries, we need to make it safe for us right here. And I'm pretty sure that if we focused on taking care of our own business, that we wouldn't have no issues with those other countries right now. That's just my opinion. Because they going through the same stuff. And I don't see them attacking us first. You know what I mean? That's the part I don't get. Just like when it's a fight or different things. Okay, people get into it. But once you sit back and analyze it, on who started what and trying to figure out the reasons why, that's when it becomes senseless. Just like these shootings and different stuff, senseless. Somebody pushed you. So instead of you pushing them back or, if that's what you felt you had to do, defending yourself, instead of you pushing them or throwing a punch, you pull a gun out? That's taking it to a whole different level. You went from defending yourself to risking everybody's life. And lives ended up getting taken in the process. Or people got, great bodily harm, if you want to use those technical terms. But that's what ends up happening. So it's like, why are you taking it to that extreme? Some of these countries, they've been having problems with each other. That's not our business. Who are you to take it to the next level by, first of all, inserting yourself in somebody else's quarrel, or you know what I mean? And then deciding that you want to take it a step up by invading them, by going in and removing their leader. You know what I mean? How do you go into another country and take somebody and then think that it's okay to just walk around like ain't nothing happened? No, you're going to have to answer for that. Somebody got to answer for that. Just like dropping bombs on people. You got to answer for that. You can't just do it just to do it. That don't make it okay. We don't know. We don't live over there. You don't know what them people is fighting about. That's between them. Somebody's right, somebody's wrong. Eventually they'll figure it out, or they'll get tired of going back and forth placing blame on each other. That's typically what happens, even with a fight, a war, a disagreement, anything. It's like eventually somebody gonna have to, or it's just gonna keep going senselessly. You know what I mean? And so that's what we gotta look at. We gotta look at, at self. We gotta get out of that type of mentality. Like I said, even, first of all, just like I said on a smaller scale, like shootings at clubs. It's like, okay, well, what is you really, was it that serious? Is it that serious? You willing to risk it all? And I trip off of that because of something else that you were saying, Igor, and I find that kind of odd too. You know how you do. When people pass away, sometimes, the story gets twisted. They make it seem like a person is innocent, when in some cases, that person was right in the middle of doing the shit, or they initiated it. Just like with our country right now, our government is trying to make it look like these other countries are the ones that's in the wrong. But on the flip side, when you go look at their media in those countries, we the ones that's wrong because we interfering with their business. I find that to be true. It's like you can't play both sides. You know what I mean? Bullying people has never worked. Trying to intimidate people has never worked. Because everybody has different levels of it, different interpretations. But eventually, you come across somebody that's on that same level of you, is not more, and that's when things happen. That's how that shooting happened, from what I saw. You know what I mean? Hey, somebody they probably should have let it go. You know what I mean? They probably should have let it go, and you let it go. You should have been really thinking about survival and trying to figure out how to remove yourself from that situation. Not confronting, because confronting it is going to turn out a certain way. And you got to be ready for that. And that's where it becomes senseless again, because you're going to put everybody else in danger. You're not going to care about nothing. That's what makes it senseless. We got to stop making senseless decisions out here, y'all. Period. When it's the next elections, all of that, we have to, we really got to look at who these individuals are, excuse me, that we're going to be voting on to lead this country, to be in these high-ranking positions, to be in charge of our defense, to be in charge of our economy. We have to really look at it. We have to look at, are these balanced individuals? Are these individuals actually qualified? Are these individuals experienced in these different areas? Their track record, does it, is there evidence to show that they can actually make a change in this position or in this field? And on the street level, got to do the same thing. A lot of us need to look at the mirror and realize who we are and who we ain't. The sooner that happens, the quicker all this stuff will change. Again, I'm not tough. But if I thought I was tough, I'm going to go do tough shit. And that's what it's about. First of all, be real with yourself about who you are or who you ain't. You feel me? Because if you that tough and you want to be outside funking with people all day, every day, understand that there's a good chance you're going to be doing that for the rest of your life, however long or short that it is. And we all know typically trying to be tough, trying to be street is short-lived. It's short-lived. It's short-lived. There's only two destinations. And they both short-lived. So if you're not trying to end up dead at a young age or locked away for the rest of your life, which is the same thing as being dead at a young age, because ain't no chances of getting out. especially if you going in for senseless shit, because they're going to put you in the senseless section. You know, they got different levels in prison. You understand what I'm saying? So, yeah, the senseless section, you know, and I ain't trying to say it like that, but it, you know, because I happen to know some people that have been on some of them yards, and they got good sense, but they had some senseless moments. You know what I mean? And they'll tell you that. But it's a lot of them out here that ain't even got enough sense to be able to admit it or identify that, yeah, they was having senseless moments. They was out there doing a lot of shit without really thinking. You know, you got some that'll never understand that. And that's, like I said, they got a place for them. But right now, you need to understand it. You need to understand, and you need to decide which one you're going to do. You feel me? I mean, you really want to be outside having to carry a gun every day? And, you know, again, just doing that alone, you got to worry about getting caught with it, spending the rest of your, you know, getting caught with it, getting locked up. And I understand, hey, it's better to get caught than be caught without it. But, okay, first of all, what are you doing out here to even be in that situation? Is it worth it? Like I said, you got to look at yourself. Who are you and who you ain't? What are you doing this for? I had a conversation with somebody about that the other day. You know, they got to speaking on different experiences, and, you know, it had to do with a jail experience, and I cut them off. Like, man, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear none of that. That's what comes with that. And if you didn't know that, then you shouldn't have been doing it. Because at that point, you made a decision that you was willing to take on and accept wholeheartedly whatever came with the choice that you made. And if you wasn't prepared to do that, then you shouldn't have made that choice. That's what I'm saying. So it's like, you know, you want to be a tough guy. What you doing going out to party? You ain't got time to be partying. If you got ops, what you trying to party for? If you got, and again, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, it was, you know, just the basics. Like I said, it was rules. You feel me? So again, and then if you got a problem with somebody, if you got people looking for you, like when that other shooting happened in the restaurant, I believe that happened in, downtown. This was some months back, and they wasn't even from Oakland. But do you remember what I'm talking about, Igor? When they was and it was a dude, and he was from another city. But again, if you outside, you know people looking for you, or if you know that you done did something to somebody, well, yeah, what are you doing outside? And you don't think the chances that, you know, that they gonna see you, you don't think that you, and that's what I mean. I can't say, I shouldn't even be asking it, because you know, you can't be that dumb or that senseless. That's what I'm saying. Be real with yourself about who you is and who you ain't. You mean to tell me that you knowingly did some stuff to people, and knowing that it's people outside that's possibly looking for you, but yet and still you choose to go outside and put other people in danger? That's selfish, along with being senseless. Because you're not thinking about nothing or nobody but yourself. And even then, you're only thinking in the moment. You're not thinking about the long term. If somebody was looking for me, or if I had problems with somebody, where it's that serious, where I know, hey, it's going to be something on site, you know, I got to move a little different. Now, don't get me wrong. Ain't nothing wrong with necessarily going to a public place. But if it's that serious, where you know that somebody is going to possibly be pulling a gun out on you when they see you and shooting at you, then I think you need to rethink your moves. You know? Because walking around with a target on your back is crazy. Again, and for what? Now, if it's for something, that's one thing. But it ain't for nothing. It ain't for your family. Because what is your family doing that's putting a target on your back? You know? Now, like I said, you know, the youngsters, they don't know no better. You know what I mean? They don't know no better. They only know whatever they may have been taught or whatever they learned out on the street. And, you know, contrary to rumor, though, you feel me? Us old heads, you know, do be trying to have conversations with them. They just ain't listening. You know? But that don't mean that we stop trying to, you know, give them that advice and give them that game. Because it has to, like, it can't be senseless all the time. It has to make sense. It does. I was at Black Joy Parade, and when I was out there, and this is what I mean about paying attention to your surroundings and environment. This is in the daytime, Igor. And you know what I saw? Now I'm standing off to the side. You know, I was smoking a cigarette, and I was near one of the stages. I want to say I was kind of near the main stage for Black Joy Parade because I was waiting for an artist to perform. It was somebody I wanted to see. You know, shout out to them. I ain't gonna say their name right now because I don't want y'all to confuse what I'm saying. But so I was waiting. There's an artist, you know, a talented artist that was local. I was waiting to see them perform on stage. So as I'm off to the side, I'm noticing, and mind you, everybody's out celebrating, having a good time. I noticed a group moving through the crowd. It was a group of teenagers. But what made me notice them is because it was like 8 of them, 9 of them with masks on. And this is in the middle of the day, on a hot day too. Middle of the day, you seen it was about 12 to 15 of them all together. But like out of the 12, 15, 8 of them had masks on and hoodies. You know, everybody stopped and looked when they started walking through there. You know what I mean? Like, hey, what is this? Again, I'm not tough, you know, but part of me, you know, one of my first reactions was just that, you know, hold on. These out here got kids y'all age. You know what I'm saying? I was literally like ready to walk up to a couple of them and, you know, damn near snatch that off their head. Like, man, what is you doing? Take them off. Walking through here like that, you feel me, like you asking for it, like you asking for a problem, you inviting it, you gonna make people uncomfortable. It might be somebody out here paranoid because they know they did something and they see y'all and they don't know who you is, so then they gonna pull their guns out and you putting all these people's lives in danger, and for what? That shit don't make you tough. And again, if that's the case, go be where the tough niggas is at. Tough niggas don't go to functions. Street niggas don't be at functions. When I was growing up, you could tell. You could tell the people that, you know, the ones that, hey, they was on the block, the quote-unquote hood niggas, whatever you want to call them, the block monsters, you know, hey, that's what they did. They was on the block. They was in the hood. You know, the dope dealers sold dope. You know, that's what I'm trying to say. The hustlers hustled. The hustlers hustled. The robbers robbed. But they didn't go out of their way and go prey on normal citizens going about daily activities. They didn't do that. Like I said, it was rules. If anything, if they had a problem with somebody, then they dealt with who they had a problem with. Other than that, they went back to doing whatever it was they chose to do. And again, like I said, about stuff being senseless. When we was growing up, you was hustling for a reason. You was hustling to provide. Now, I don't condone necessarily stealing or robbing people, but for the people that did that, they felt that that's what they had to do to survive. They were doing it out of necessity. And even some of them, because, you know, again, back in the day, when people, robbed or did certain things or even stole, they were particular about where they did it or who they did it to. I know some people that used to rob, but hey, they'll tell you they didn't rob innocent people. They would rob the drug dealers. You know what I'm saying? Or hey, they'll break up the dice game because they know that first of all, them is niggas in the street. Not necessarily people that they know. Some of them, of course, they would go out, somewhere else and do it to people they didn't know. You get what I'm saying? It had to make sense. Nowadays, you got people doing it to people they know. So there's no loyalty there. People from their same neighborhood. They're not going out, to deal with the opposition. That stuff got to make sense. It's a time and a place for that. And honestly, it ain't even no time or place right now. Like I said, we at war. We got these, cities as we know it. Not just what we hearing about in these other countries, but our own cities are on the decline right now. Our schools, our stores, our everything, life as we know it is on a decline out here. The answer is not creating more chaos, doing senseless shit. We got to start making sense of it. If we choose, hey, if you, like I said, no matter what it is you're doing, if you're doing it, it got to be a reason for it. And there's other ways to make money. Put in work mean put in work. Go put in work at a job. What's wrong with getting your money? Don't you want to? I mean, everybody at the end of the day, that's what I'm saying too. Some people be lying to themselves about how tough they is. At the end of the day, everybody wants to be able to do whatever it is they want to do without no problems. Right? So do it without no problems. If you want to hustle, there's a way to hustle without having any problems. That has to do with your character, how you carry yourself. That has to do with your principles and what you stand for and how you move. Go get a job. Get 2 or 3 of them. And still have a side hustle. But don't go out of your way messing with people that ain't messing with you. Treat people the way you want to be treated. You don't want nobody trying to press up on you. Quit trying to press up on people all the time, because that's what it is too. You know what I'm saying? Like, a lot of y'all, and again, I ain't no better. You feel me? I got a temper problem. I didn't got reckless at times. You know what I mean? And sit there, get to flashing, talking crazy. Trying to intimidate somebody. I'm lucky I'm still here though. There's times I could have lost my life doing that. And learn from it. Learn from it. That's what I'm trying to say. And it's too many, unfortunately, it's too many examples out here. And that's the thing, too. Stop being just an example when you can be the change. And historically, one way or another, our people have always been the example. For one reason or another. So we gotta change all of that. And speaking of change, I want to change the topic a little bit before I get up out of here. So I'm gonna take a break real quick, y'all. I know I've been rambling for a second, but give me about 5 minutes, and we're gonna get back to the show because I know I gotta liven this up a little bit. You know what I mean? Because I was ranting. You know, you can call that the the you know, the rant of the century. I don't plan on doing too hard. The rant of 2026. Hopefully I don't have to go on those no more. But this shit is senseless. And we gotta start making sense of it. You know? Street level impact. I'll be right back after this commercial.
Reggaeton dance music till the lights is on, till the lights is on, till the lights is on. Radio, that radio, we play you, send your music. We play you, send it in, send it in. We play you, send your music. We play you, send it in, send it in. We play you, send your music. We play you, send it in. With you in the mix, all over the planet. Yeah, in the mix, all over the planet. We play you, send your music. We play you, send it in, send it in. We play you, send your music. We play you, send it in.
Street level impact. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to make a street level impact. You know what I mean? We gotta bring it back home. You know, we gotta get it right out here. You feel me? Like I said, you know, if y'all just tuning in, you know, this is episode 8, Street Level Impact. If you missed the first half of it, you know, I had to go ahead and give my few cents, not 2 cents, but a few cents about, you know, just some of the stuff that's going on locally. Because, like I said, it's getting, you know, we be doing good 1 minute, y'all. Then the next is like we take 10 steps forward and then it'll take 15 steps backwards. The next minute, like, it gotta, you know, like I said, we gotta stop doing the senseless shit and start making sense of it. But, enough of that, you know what I mean? So we getting, you know, close to the other half of the show. So I just wanted to give my opinions, and at the same time I wanted to see about getting some opinions about a couple different topics that's going on out here. So, you know, hopefully Igor could chime in on a few of these with me, because, you know, well, first of all, I mean, if y'all don't know by now, but you know, this is my partner. We've been knowing each other, you know, about a quarter century. So we gon' you know, we chop it up anyway. You feel me? This is what would be going on. Like, to be honest with you, even before, you know, before Bay Life Radio or any of this, it was, you know, we would sit around in the studio in the midst of doing other work, and you know, or just hanging out, and have conversations, or I guess, you know, go, you know, kind of give our opinions on different things that was going on. You know, I mean, that's something that I think as a community people do naturally anyway. You know what I'm saying? We just happen to live in a time now with technology that the information is like instant.
Right.
Because
they say, go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, because, you know, a lot of times too it would be that where there have been times where we've been sitting here and, you know, you scroll on social media, or, you know, if the news is on the TV or something, and then next thing you know, hey, this just happened, or this is what's happening right now. And so, you know, we chop it up, give our opinions about it. You feel me? And also not only give our opinions, but, you know, try to brainstorm on solutions and how to remedy things. So, you know, excuse me, like I said, if I be getting long-winded sometimes, y'all, because this is regular. You know, it's a regular day. You know, just regular conversation. So by all means, no matter where you tuned in right now, whether it's, you know, Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, you know, or anywhere else that you happen to be tuned in to us, by all means, you know, give your opinion. You can always leave it in the comment section. You know, we do check those. You feel me? And if we don't get back to them, if we don't respond to your comment on this show, we can respond on the next one. But yeah, everybody's voice need to be heard. That's what Street Level Impact is about. You know what I mean? We trying to, you know, make the impact on this level, you know, from the ground up. You know what I mean? So we want to make sure that our voices get heard. So this is your opportunity to get your voice heard. Right. Or, you know what I mean? So by all means, like I said, is whether you know, leave a comment, you know, if you want to send in a question and you want us to, you know, read it, we can do that too. I'm going to give y'all the contact information, you know, before the end of the show, of course, but, you know, make sure that y'all do that. If you watching it right now, you able to comment somewhere.
For sure.
You can hit a chat, something. So by all means, and if you don't believe me, just do it right now and see what happens. You know, but yeah, let's get into this, man. So I think that should be the name of what you think. Call it a few cents.
A few cents.
It's not my 2 cents, but a few cents.
Few cents.
A few cents. So, you know, that's the section of the show that we finna get into right now. It's a few cents, and you know, like I said, me and Igor, I guess, can go back and forth a little bit on some of these topics to see, you know, just where we at, and to give y'all, you know, our opinion where we stand at on it. Because we out here just like y'all. That's what I'm saying. So these topics, these topics, you feel me, they affect me, and that's why I said sometimes I get caught up in my words or passionate about what I'm talking about because it directly affects me.
Right.
Everything that we was talking about in the first half of the show directly affects me. And I'm pretty sure it directly affects a lot of y'all too, especially if you live in this region. You know, if you live in these cities, these laws, you know, these different tragedies, all these different things that are happening, affecting all of us.
For real.
So with that being said, I'm ready to give my few cents. You ready, Igor?
For sure. I got a few cents, man.
A few cents.
Because you hit a lot of great points in the first segment of your broadcast, you know, and one of them that you hit as far as the youth being reckless, you know, it just made me think. The first thing I want to say to all the youth, from my neighborhood, your neighborhood, from the Bay Area and beyond, man, I love y'all. I got mad love for my youth. You feel me? When I became a father, not only did I become a father to my kids, I became a father to all kids, to be a real father. So if nobody told y'all this year, last year, or whatever, I want to say personally on behalf of Bay Life and Bay Life Radio and Bay Life family and the fathers therein, I love you, man. You feel me? It's not me against you. I need y'all to know that we are on your side, and whatever you feel like is making you at odds, let's talk about it. Bay Life has built a platform. Y'all welcome to come speak on it. Because it has definitely became a point where we have to come to a solution, not just point a finger at who dropped the ball, but we got to come to a solution. And believe it or not, the solution lies in a lot of the things that we have taken for granted. For instance, parents, have you realized that this government has taken the authority out of your household with your kids? We should be thinking about that, because I come from a household where there was authority. My mama would flat out beat your ass for disrespect and not listening. And I'm glad she did. I hated it when she did it, but I'm glad she did, because it kept me out of the penitentiary. It kept me from killing. It kept me from doing the otherwise reckless stuff that I stayed away from. Now, don't get me wrong. I did some wrong things. I was a knucklehead. And I often call moms and tell her I'm sorry for being bad. And she laughed at me because she knew life would take me this way. And she knew I would have to give an account of my wrongdoings. Saying that to say, youth, I want you to understand what goes around definitely comes around. You will not get away with doing wrong. The Most High sees you even when nobody down here don't. And I'm saying that because, yes, this weekend my friend got taken. And I mean literally taken. Because she had nothing to do with none of the violence. She was out celebrating good things, great accomplishments. And she was preparing to release some good music. And out of nowhere, somebody else in the midst of trouble, making trouble, took her life. Now, I don't have to go in detail, and you don't have to be a rocket science. Just watch the clip. If you notice, it's not one man on the ground shot. It's two. If you notice, it's three different people shooting even in this short clip. None of them was my friend Tish. You feel me? Unfortunately, the young man that also died with Tish, he was one of the people shooting. And if you watch on the clip, come on, dads, we got to take these kids to the shooting range or something. This young man was just shooting randomly in the crowd because he was hit. Now, I don't know what getting shot will make somebody else do. I've been shot before, and it didn't make me just shoot into the crowd to hit somebody. It did make me do that. So we got to get to the bottom of some real solid talks. Also, these young men need to learn how to fight. You need to be a real warrior. A real warrior don't just pick up a weapon. And 9 times out of 10, all these young men that's picking up weapons, they don't know how to fight. And that's on our older warriors to take that back on, to give that to them. Whether you they dad, they uncle, they big cousin, they big brother, somebody, we got to get a curriculum going to get these young men away from picking up guns.
And you know what? It's funny that you say that, because a bunch of people I've talked to said the same thing that you just said.
Yeah, they
And-
scared. These young men
and-
with these guns in their hand, they acting tough, but they're really scared.
Right.
Not scared of you or me. They scared of life. They
Well-
scared of what life is going to give them if they don't have this weapon.
Well, and it's a trip also, because now I do actually I do participate, with promoting an event that we've been developing locally, where people could come out and get in the gloves. It's all fun.
Yeah,
It's
sport.
it's all. I mean, it's all for sport, for fun. And it's been going on for the last few months, and it's been going pretty good. We didn't hit every city in the Bay. All good turnouts, no altercations. Outside of people getting in the ring with the gloves on. But even then, like you said, you could tell, because, and it's all, there's different age groups. It's even females that ain't got out there and put the gloves on.
That's what's up.
But you could tell the difference, because like you were saying, as, some of these people, as far as at the events I was at, none of the people had problems with each other.
Right. It's a sport.
They was doing it just to do it,
Right.
Like you said,
Right.
recreation, something to do. They want to, see where they at, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like you were saying too, that's the difference with the generations, because
Yes.
we used to do that. You know what I mean? You get the gloves on. Ain't nothing wrong with a little friendly competition. Just like ain't no different than a pickup game of basketball. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right. And see,
but I noticed that it was a lot of. I don't mean to cut you off, but I noticed too. Now, the percentage of youngsters that's involved, it don't be that much. Like it do, or it'll be a group of them, but it's only one or two of them that, like you said, that get involved, because it's like they
scared.
They
scared.
yeah, exactly. Like
They scared.
The rest of them ain't really got no heart for none of it. Like,
Yeah.
they scared of getting hit.
And see, that's all a part of art of combat.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not just picking up a weapon, or it's not just swinging your hands. The art of combat, it's about confronting your fears.
Right.
Like you said, it's about controlling your temper. You know what I'm saying? It's about anger management. It has wise decisions in the art of combat. It's just not physical. And a lot of these youngsters need to learn that, the other side of the art of combat. And also, honestly, I think a big part of the misconception of the art of combat is these video games, man.
Right.
These companies that's making these shoot 'em up games, Grand Theft, all the Ops games, all the Mortal Kombats, all those games, they should be held to a certain degree of accountability, because what you are creating is worldwidely influencing our kids in the wrong direction. You got kids at 6 and 7 years old on video games cussing people out like they grown people, but then getting caught in the street and can't do nothing. I remember even the comedian Mike Epps said he was playing a game as a grown-up, and a young dude was cussing him out so bad that he hired an investigator to go find the man so he could confront the man. And when he found the man, it was a little boy. You know what I mean? So, and even after that, these parents that are buying these games, even if you do decide to buy your kid the game, at least sit down with them and see what they doing. see what these games is, how these games are affecting your kid.
And that's the problem too, though, because some of them they participated in as well.
Right, but I mean,
No self-control.
But when you know, as a parent, I'm thinking as a cognitive parent.
Right.
I didn't even think of as a parent that's still acting like a kid.
Right.
Because that's a whole nother can of worms. Because you have these grown men and women on the game too, coming outside thinking they are professionals because they so good on the game. They got a high score and they know what all the guns is called. You know what I mean?
And the kids is following right behind.
Right behind them. And we got to do better. That's we got to hold some of these companies. We got to hold some of these quote unquote influencers. That's a new word now because we didn't even regard influencers as a people when I was coming up. That was somebody you didn't listen to.
Right.
They was automatically a troublemaker. If they was trying to influence you to do anything, because I was always raised be a leader, not a follower.
Right.
If you a follower, that means you being influenced.
I thought about that too. And the first time I want to say that I heard it used, like you said, is when the first time that you heard it being used in that way?
As I can remember.
Waka Flocka.
Yep.
Oh, let's do it.
Yep.
That's part of the hook. He said, yep, I influence.
Yep. He
I
coined
influence.
it, and they blew it up.
Right. To where, then that's like you said, it was never, being a follower was never the thing to do.
Yeah, that was never cool. Copying, imitating, when I was younger, we called that biting.
Right.
Biting was not permissible. It was not held. It was not complimented. If you was a biter, they would shame you out of the neighborhood, shame you out of the circle, and you had to come back authentic. You had to come back original.
Or the other word, I guess, like you said, we didn't have influence. The word for us wasn't influence, but it was peer pressure.
Yeah.
And even then, it's the same thing. It's
that was a biter.
But how could you, like you said too, that's what made the difference because we was taught to be our own man or our own woman.
Right.
We was taught to stand up on our own and stand up and be our own person.
Right.
Regardless of any of that. So like you said too, even the quote unquote influencers were respected that they couldn't influence you.
Right.
They actually looked at, to be honest with you, that's why I'm trying to say, the streets and everything was different. You used to be, those same individuals would actually applaud you for going a different way.
Yes.
For being able to do something that they couldn't do.
They would tell you to go a different way.
Right.
You feel me?
The ones that had sense, like you said.
1999. Early 2000. The shift came in where the OGs start going to get the youngsters to do the dirty work. That wasn't a thing when we came up.
Right.
The most you could do on the streets, on the block, in the hood is be a lookout or be an errand boy. Go to the store for us.
Right.
You couldn't touch nothing. You couldn't hold no artillery. The most artillery you could do is run over there and hide it or go get it. You couldn't have one. You couldn't walk the block with one. You couldn't have nothing for sale if you was underage.
Right. But then
the OGs used to pay you to go to school.
Right. But then you had, unfortunately, with some of the OGs being gone, and I say some of them, whether they, no longer here or they ended up getting locked up, the streets was full of influencers after that. That's who was left to teach the next generation. There was a lot of influencers, and there was a lot of influencers. Why? Because they didn't want to get their hands dirty. So they try to manipulate
somebody else.
Or coerce somebody else, into doing the work for them.
Yep.
But
and we didn't have the regulators. the regulators was either dead or, like you said, in jail, because the regulators would have been like, gone out of here with all that.
Right. And that's what a lot of people got to understand, too. Like you said, it was like that in the streets where the regulators used to smash on the influencers.
Yes. You couldn't influence the kids.
Right. Or don't come over here and try to stir up some shit and get people riled up behind your situation. Go handle that yourself.
Right.
Don't put everybody else in danger.
The number one thing on the streets was problems stop the money. So you didn't want no problems. You didn't want headache. You didn't want havoc. You didn't want chaos, because it would slow down the money. And now it's like they don't care about slowing down the money. And in fact, that's a whole street tactic now. They'll go across town and slow down the money to try to get it, not knowing the whole big circle has to slow down because of that one slowdown.
Exactly.
You know, it gotta be some more fundamentals taught to our youth. We gotta meet them where they at before they pick up the guns. You know, and as I said, some of these big companies have to be held accountable. Like now, you know, in our region, it's a thing called ghost guns.
Right.
You have to make that with a certain kind of printer. I think that printing company should be held accountable. They can't tell you what and what not to make. And of course, somebody's always going to hack an invention. But because you invented this and opened up this lane, you should be held accountable. Because now what you made is potentially dangerous, not only to people, but mainly to our kids. We gotta get some more forums where these kids can speak up. We gotta get some more bring the youth jobs back. You know, where these kids can be at work and really use their hands. Put the curriculum back in school, because you notice all of the jewels that they took away from us led to an era of kids that they have no self-control, they have no anger management, they have no physical hand skills, not just fighting. I'm talking about learning how to use tools, drilling, welding, actually building.
Or repairing stuff.
Stuff. Yes, these kids leave. I live in East Oakland, and I ain't never seen this many bikes laid out on the street just because it got a flat tire on it. Or just because the chain came off. Or the handlebars loose. We got to get back to teaching our kids how to fix what we got. You know? It's
instead of thinking everything instant.
Yeah.
Or just going to go take somebody else's.
Yeah. Those are not the answers. Because sooner or later, somebody going to take yours. Remember, what goes around definitely comes around. You can't escape your wrongdoing. I know I'm a living witness. I'm living through mine right now apologizing. And it ain't no big eyes and little U's. We all got to do it. And for it to be this many weapons on the street, we need to be looking at manufacturers, holding them more accountable. All the way down to these business owners. I'm a DJ, and I'm in favor of all, venues that give people a place to go have a good time, because it keeps people like me working. But places like where my friend lost her life need to be shut down. They need to be put in the hands of people that's going to run the business right. That's the second phase. But the first phase, they need to be out of business. They should not be allowed. That security company should be not allowed to be a security company. You are downtown Oakland. That's all I can think. You are in one of the busiest meccas in California. This is not a quiet street. It's not a ghost town. And if I'm not mistaken, it was one of the only public after hours in the whole neighborhood.
And that's what I was about to say too. I'm glad that you said that because, again, going back to the overall structure here in California, and they've been doing it other places too, but here in California, when they're currently passing bills to, you know, that are talking about letting venues stay open later, you know, trying to, you know, help deal with the economy in the night, you know, or even in the night scene, just for that matter, you know, they're trying to liven it up and not have it so strict. And it's like, y'all abusing, you know, y'all fucking it up. You're abusing the privilege, basically. Yeah. It's like, you know,
you can't cut corners, man.
Yeah, it used to be a time where they wasn't tripping because people knew how to act.
Right.
But then, like you said, y'all showing that y'all don't know how to act. And again, we're not just talking about patrons because, like I was saying earlier, I do work as one of my side gigs. I do work security right now.
Right.
You know, and what I've noticed is a lot of these, some of these security companies or some of these guards, they aren't being properly trained.
Nope.
Some of them ain't, you know, don't necessarily qualify. They think they just, you know, putting somebody to, you know, position somebody here. Yeah, put the body there. And the same thing, like I was saying earlier about police. It seemed like that's what they're doing in some instances where, you know, they just putting them up here for a presence. You know, just for the visual, just, you know, their presence. Hopefully it can deter.
Yeah.
You know, but
I mean, I get that idea, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, if you are using that mentality in the work area, you have to use your smart discretion.
That's what I mean.
In the areas, okay, this spot, you know, high crime areas, high traffic areas is not for a non-active person.
Exactly.
I don't think no club should be open without security. And I don't think it should be in no club a security guard that's not willing to do their job in the security club. I mean, in the security field.
Even at a bar. You're not supposed to sit there and watch TV too.
Part of when I came up as youngsters, we used to be mad at security because they was so strict.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? As I'm older now, I understand why, and I wish y'all bring it back. You know?
Yeah, no ID, no ID.
Come on. No ID, no ID. And it's funny you say that in. Because as a youngster. You're not
dressed right, you ain't getting in.
You know, as a youngster, me and my cousin, rest in peace, Gizzo, we made a song, Mad at Security, and it was called No ID. Because there were sometimes we would go to the club real deep. But out of 20 people, 6 of us wouldn't have ID. So now we got to rotate shifts to go outside with our friends that ain't got ID. So we made a song about it, Mad at Security. I want to say to all security, I apologize for that song. I want to go on record saying I was wrong for making that song. And I've grown up to respect your job, and I think that y'all was doing us right. Because this era of security is not. And we need to really look at that, at these clubs and these venues. And these club owners, you really got to get back more strict. You got shiesty masks and shiesty beanies and hoodies and, you know, fake masks, fake faces entering your establishments and patronizing, and you not saying nothing. You know, please take that off. Please put that away. You can't come in here with this. And it's a problem. It is. It's a problem.
If it's not Halloween,
Come on.
Or if it's not Halloween or a masquerade party,
Come on.
I don't understand. If it's not a costume party or a masquerade party, what is a mask for?
Well, we know in the streets. First of all, y'all scared. Yeah, I said it. The mask is because you're scared.
You don't want nobody to know who you is.
The mask is because you're scared. It's because you're shy. It's
Yeah.
because you don't know how to interact with people. Because you're very self-conscious because of the environment you are in. You're not sure if you look good enough or you're presentable.
They not, come on now. They gonna like.
You
They're
know
not
what I
gonna like
mean?
that. You got to slow down.
For real.
Somebody
These-
getting mad right now.
These hats cover. I'm one of them. I got a bald spot. A lot of times I wear a hat.
Hey,
I know what my hat for. But a lot of these kids, they are intimidated. They have not grown into a full person, and they're scared to present themselves, so they hide in their safe space. And a lot of times their safe space is inside that hoodie, inside that shiesty mask. Especially young bullies on the street, they think the shiesty mask give them power. I'm telling them, y'all.
influence.
Yeah.
Pooh Shiesty. That's why
Come
they
on,
call
that's
it.
what I'm saying.
That's
the
why they
shiesty
gave it
mask.
the Shiesty mask.
I didn't want to
Yeah,
call
that
his
was-
name, but since you did,
But
yeah, that's
why
it.
it's called a Shiesty man.
Yeah, and because you look shiesty.
Right.
You know what I mean? You don't look like you are supposed to be in the presence of the public wearing those certain things.
And it's not new, y'all. I mean,
Come on.
it's been ski masks around and stuff forever. But typically, like you said, unless you rode on motorcycles, which of course, because they don't want nothing getting in their face, unless you rode motorcycles, or you was actually out skiing, or you was in the snow where it's freezing temperatures, there was no reason to cover up your face unless you were
Right.
in that moment going to go do some dirt.
And the cold part about it, I'm going to tell you something. The cold part about it is I fought COVID, and I know that's crazy to say, but I fought COVID and the authors of COVID because they actually designed this. Because I remember, and I'm sure y'all do, before COVID, you couldn't go nowhere with a mask on. You couldn't come in people's business with a mask on, and most times they would ask you, take your hoodie off. COVID scared everybody into wearing a mask, but the part I fought them for is because they told them all the opposite reasons. Wear a mask so you don't catch the germs. No, the mask is so you don't give the germs.
Right.
They didn't tell you that. They had you wearing a mask trying to think that you're preventing something, but you're really preventing yourself from giving it to somebody else, not receiving it. Then they went to the next level. They started making designer masks. I know I did it. We made Bay Life Radio masks too because we wanted to, be a part of society again.
Right.
And now no one has said, okay, put all that away. No more masks and hoodies outside in the public. Take all that off. And part of the reason why they ain't said it is because they haven't solved the problem of COVID and all these new flus and viruses that's coming around, so they can't say it. And it has become a part of the economy. There is now stores and manufacturers that manufacture all these millions of masks in every kind of way, and now they're a part of the economy that they don't want to stop. I just had to say that. I'm going to get off my soapbox. But take those masks off. Take those hoodies off. Be in the know. Be in the now. Be in the present. Present yourself. Stop hiding. Stop being so scared. Especially our young black men. You ain't got nothing to be scared of. If we stand up and be the men we supposed to be,
Right.
we'll start seeing the change. Now I'm going to leave that alone.
Okay, well, I mean, you said a lot of what I was already saying, so I guess I believe that one alone too. But it's a trip when you was just talking about masks in regards to COVID and stuff, and these different, like you said, illnesses now, these new viruses that they have no cures for, but I noticed that there's been more talk of them actually having cures for cancer
Right.
and and other ways, and or different ways to detect it and stuff now. And
We've been had a cure for cancer.
that's what I was about to say is, okay, with that going on, and the fact that it is because I believe one article I was reading and said that Russia, I believe they already have it, and they're preparing, to put it out there for people.
Here's the cold part of the truth, if you really look at it. I truly don't believe that there is any kind of man-made disease out there that they haven't already made the cure for, because the people that's making it need a rescue in case a mistake happens.
Right.
See, everything don't go perfect all the time. So
Right.
just in case something goes wrong, they already needed a remedy.
Right.
So
a lot of that is patented, or
Come on.
like you said, there's
There
certain
you go.
people who own the rights to it, quote unquote. They don't have to release it yet, or if they do decide to, it's gonna be for a certain dollar amount. And like you were saying too,
It's cures.
part
Act
of the
magic.
Yeah, no, but like you said, it's part of the checks and balances of the thing, because it's so many companies that profit from it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just like the other companies' treatment. If they cure it, then you don't need treatment.
And you don't need to come back to them.
Right. If they
And you
cure
don't need
it.
to spend no more money with them.
Right. So it's a lot of that.
That's a crazy point where I want to just quick segue to, is because I was noticing, I'm seeing all the doctors and the nurses going on strike,
Right.
right? And my first instinct is to feel for them, because the doctors and nurses, they need to get paid to do their job. But then I started researching how much the average nurse or the average doctor makes, and it's already into six figures. So I'm thinking, what kind of lifestyle do you need more than the six figures you already getting to be a doctor, to be a helper? How much do you actually need to be paid to be satisfied as a doctor? When it's people out here that's making less than 50 and 60,000, you making double that and triple that, but you still going on strike because you think you deserve more. I'm confused about that.
I agree with you, but I also look at it as these corporations, these bigger corporations, for example, even the government, like we were talking about earlier in the first segment when I was talking about police, and some of the issues can be attributed to other parts of government, because they're making certain decisions, whether it's changing certain laws or quote unquote budget cuts. So you're moving around money and resources. That same thing right now with the education system. We seen it was the same thing. We were hearing across the country that, the budget, this and that, you know what I'm saying, or our debt, national debt, and different things, and they were going to have to cut out certain programs or cut funding to certain things. And as a result of that, in almost every industry, you're hearing people being overworked and underpaid. Or, like you said, the resources. So I kind of look at it like that. That's one of the reasons that some of them are asking. And you do hear it get brought up sometimes. Because like you were saying in the medical field, you know, in some cases, hey, they just got, if the budget just got cut a few years prior, and so that affected the amount of equipment that they had, or you get what I'm saying? I'm gonna give you a perfect example. Like IRS. You remember how the IRS, they had a glitch in the system where the whole system was shutting down, or even BART, for example, the BART system. All these different things that be happening with the BART train, they're running off an old operating system. How are you making all this money, but you haven't upgraded the system that it runs on?
Right.
You haven't upgraded the software, the equipment, or anything else. Where's all that money going to? So same thing. And when you talk about the medical field, I went to a doctor's appointment. This was about a month ago. Now, at the end of the doctor's appointment, they normally give you a printout, a summary of, why you were seen today, whatever the diagnosis was, whatever procedures that they, they did that day, or what the recommendations was, or if there was, any prescriptions, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You would get a printout about that. Their printer wasn't working.
See.
And that's in the doctor's office. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, because at the end of the appointment, and they were like, well, yeah, I'm sorry, we printer isn't working, so, we can't give you a printout. But today's technology, they do have an app where, you can log in on the app.
Yeah. Shouts out to MyChart.
Yeah, MyChart, right, where you can log in on there and still pull up the information. But even that, and because we print stuff and done other things,
But
I know how much a printer, printers cost.
If we just resorted to an app, wouldn't that bring the cost down? Because now you're not buying printers, now you're not buying paper and ink. All you doing is sending information over the internet.
But everybody doesn't necessarily have access to that.
See?
That's, again, so like you said, all of these different monopolies, all these different all these different
This,
parts of the structure.
This reminds me.
They
of
so
the
busy
process.
trying to monopolize it, because again, now that's at the doctor's office, but shit, I was at a library. It was a couple other places I was at where they having similar issues.
Yeah.
But what I mean is, or when you're looking at it, they're running off the same old equipment, or they're using the same old equipment to where it's like, okay, like the doctor's office, for example, with the funding, why is it that they aren't able to provide basic stuff anymore? Because the cost of a hospital visit or a doctor's visit, all of that's increasing every day. You know what I mean? So with that, if that's the case, as much as y'all charging, like you charging somebody a couple $100 just for a visit. You know what I mean? And you figure, okay, it's a couple thousand people that's coming through this office a day.
Woo!
Then how is it that you can't afford,
That reminds me of another subject. Very, very similar situations, but just a different material. I'm talking about, the Bay Bridge and the Bay Area highways.
Yeah.
They fired hundreds of people off of all of the bridges.
Oh, yeah, the bridge toll.
Increased the toll.
Right.
Never repaired one street.
They ain't even repaired the bridges. What are you talking about, the street?
One. Not even one. Not even one.
I trip off of that right now. Like when you drive into the city, they still got the lane from where the, I guess where the truck or whatever had
yes, it's still broken, it's still tore up.
Yeah,
Yeah, why?
exactly. And this is years later.
Yes,
Or
why?
like how you said, the little booths that they had up there.
Yeah,
I thought at first they were supposed to be removing those. That never happened. But then
Right.
you got other bridges where, like I think it was the San Rafael to Richmond bridge, where you have pieces of the bridge falling off.
And here go the cold part about it. I was crossing the bridge going to the city, and I seen the sheriff arresting a homeless person. Because, I guess that little stairway where you go down the stairway to come up to get to the booths.
Yeah,
He was in there, I guess living or whatever.
right.
And they was arresting him. And I'm like, well, where is all this extra money that y'all... The bridge toll is now $8.60.
And it goes up. That's the initial charge. If you don't pay it, they put penalty fees.
Yes.
I just listen.
And attach it to your registration.
Hey, I just dealt with that as in the last 48 hours.
Wow.
I could have bought a car with how much money I just had to pay fast track.
Yeah, they killing them.
Yeah, because you figure even, okay, if you crossing one bridge a day, right?
You have to cross
Fi-
it twice then.
Well, I'm saying, but they only charge going one way, right? So they charge going one way. So you cross the bridge 5 days a week. That breaks down to $160 a month.
Okay. And I'll do you even one better.
40 a week.
Let's say you got let's
160
say
a month.
you just got you a cool little house in Vallejo, California, but you work in the city.
Yeah,
You got to cross two bridges both
exactly.
ways.
Exactly.
So you paying going and coming.
Yeah, $16. I know somebody that's
So
doing that.
that just doubled your price.
Right.
You said 160. Now it's 320 a
Right.
week.
No, a month.
A month to
Yeah.
go to work.
Right.
Come on.
And hold on. And that's if you pay them on time. Because like I said,
Come on.
the penalties, it'd be like $5 or so each time. The penalty fee they add on if you don't pay it by a certain time. And like I just said, y'all, I paid a couple, I'm going to be honest with you. I paid over $2,000.
And now I'm looking at this, right?
Did you hear me?
I'm looking at
over
this.
$2,000 in bridge toll. And it was actually more than that. I was able to get some of the penalty fees waived, but initially it was like $4,000. Okay? And like he said, we sit here, this is what it is, so we got to deal with it. But the more I think about it, like how you just said, okay, y'all just got $4,000 from me. Why these roads and shit looking like this?
It's $8.60 to cross the bridge, right?
Yeah.
It's just the Bay Bridge. Let's look at one bridge.
Yeah.
Right. On an average, the Bay Bridge has 260,000 cars a day.
Yeah.
So that's 260,000 times $8.60 a day. A day. We can just round it off. $8 times 260,000. That's over $2 million a day. Where's that money going? We probably should leave that alone because you see what they did to Martin when he started talking about economy.
You said 260,000 people a day?
260,000 cars approximately cross the Bay Bridge every day.
At $8?
At $8.
That's 2,080,000.
Come on, a day. Let's just say 2 million a day. That's 10 million in a work week. That's 40 million a month.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you not buying nothing. You paying PG&E. That's what you're doing. You paying PG&E, and you probably paying HVAC to get circulation through the buildings back and forth that you use going through the tunnel. So HVAC and electricity, because you're not repairing nothing. You're not building nothing new since the new bridge. You're not fixing the potholes. You're not paving the streets, and you're getting $10 million a month. That's $120 million a year. Come on, man.
Well, you gotta think about it. They couldn't afford to keep the lights on either.
Come on,
Remember,
how?
for the bridge?
How? You get $10 million a week. That's $10 million. That's just the average, though.
Right.
That ain't even
On a busy day.
Yeah. That ain't the busy days. That ain't the holiday spikes. That's just an average.
Right.
Come on, man.
And that's only one bridge.
Come on. And that's only one bridge. So now think of this. Just think of this. How devastating would it be if people just said, okay, we're not using a bridge. We're using public transportation. That would divide $10 million up into public transportation and take all that money away from the bridge. Something to think about.
Well, even then, they just had to get bailed out too, remember?
I mean, but
All the public transit.
see, I'm saying that to say,
And they got $500 million
I believe
to bail them out.
we cutting the wrong areas. We cutting schools. We ain't cutting transportation costs. We ain't diverting the costs.
Right.
We are not giving incentives to be environmentally effective.
Right.
When
Speaking of which, because you was just talking about cutting schools too, you see, this is the 4th day that the teachers in Dublin is on strike, right?
Yeah, and that's Dublin.
Right.
Come
Hold
on.
After Oakland and everybody else, but not only that, Sacramento just did some stuff earlier this week for their unified school district. Hold on. They just put the whole district office on layoff notice.
Wow.
The whole, yeah. So who's gonna run the district? I mean,
Right.
who's gonna run the schools and what's gonna be next? Because if how y'all lay the whole district office?
Nobody ain't been doing nothing.
Or,
That's a
I mean,
sad
what else
fact.
I was gonna say? Or, what did y'all do with the money? Y'all done did something with y'all got
Yes,
caught
most definitely.
for doing something? Or I can understand that, but if not, how is it that you just you can't
No,
afford
really.
to?
At the end of the day, where is the money?
Because a layoff ain't fired. Layoff mean we can't pay y'all. We gotta let y'all go.
Yeah. But here's the whole other part. And I don't know if a lot of people know this. But the source that is supposed to help fund school and administration, especially in California, is this $1 billion California lottery. That's supposed to be money to help the education system. Where's that money?
On top of all these quote unquote donations that people keep making.
Yeah.
But no, y'all not worried about that. Y'all worried about, because I just seen this earlier today too. So they said that the tech billionaires out here in Silicon Valley, that they're starting a campaign right now because they want to reshape the politics out here and change some laws around that, goes more in their favor. I was just reading this earlier, and it said that they currently have set a goal of $100 million that they're trying to reach by the end of this year. And over the next few years, their total number that they're trying to reach is anywhere from 500 million to $1 billion in order to push their agenda.
Here's the cool thing about it. Number one, they already have that amount of money amongst themselves.
Right.
So it's not about getting the money. It's about draining society. Number two, we got to look at that. The third thing I want to say is the masses are confused with who's in control. What I mean by that, for instance, just say this. Stay off the internet for a week. Just stay off the internet for a week. Okay, pick another industry. Stop driving for a week. Just week. Not a month, a week. We going, oh, prices is going up, gas is going up, it's almost $8. Ooh, yes, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Especially me coming from an era where I used to see gas at $1.
Well, first of all, it is eight. Well,
Yeah.
in Southern California,
It's $8.40
it
something.
is. It is eight. The cheapest I've seen, is from like $8.20 on up, and that was in L.A. as of a few days ago.
So you know what's coming here next.
No. As of today, in Menlo Park, getting gas out there is $7.19 for regular unleaded gas. $7.19 a gallon. And I know what y'all saying. With Chevron and Shell always got you absolutely right. Chevron 76, Shell. We always looked at them as the higher gas stations and different stuff. But that says a lot because, like you said, so we already there. We might fuck around be at $8 over the weekend. You know, in certain parts of the Bay Area. I think they also said, is it Mill Valley was also in the $7 range.
But see,
I paid $5.30, I think, yesterday. And that's because I specifically tried to go to a gas station that was, typically cheaper than the other ones. And I still paid that. But, yeah, every other gas station.
Yeah, so had
it
you
was-
not
it was
looked for that
touching
gas
six-
station,
right.
you would have been paying more.
Right, yeah. We are closer to $6 already.
See, now I'm saying that to say, if we realize that, number one, we control the power of gas, as the masses, when they go up like that, we supposed to go, oh, we ain't driving it.
That's what I was actually going to ask you in this segment, because about gas prices. What are your thoughts on that? And
Drive less, it'll go down.
that's what I was about to say. What's your limit? Because I noticed too. I seen that question floating around on social media. They even asked it on the news. At what
I'll tell
is
you
it getting
this.
to the point where people gonna do what you just said? Hey, I'm not driving no more.
I'll tell you this. Over the last 5 to 7 years, I have adamantly tried to stop driving as much.
Yeah.
Years before that, you would catch me out all day just driving. A lot of my people from the hood, you know what I'm talking about, because you go here and there, and you go here and there and here and there, and always here and there. You go here and there. In Oakland, California, when I was younger, we used to do what was called ride the strip. And that's when you ride one of 3 of the longest streets in Oakland.
Till your
Back
gas
and
ran
forth.
out. Till your gas ran out.
You go back and forth. You start on one end and you cruise one of the 3 long streets: MacArthur, Foothill, Bancroft. And if you was really cruising, you'd hit all of them and probably do it twice in a day. That was me. Gas used to be $1.35 a gallon, $2 a gallon. Okay, we were still doing it at $3 a gallon. When gas hit $3.50, $4 a gallon, I was like, whoa, nah. I got to stop this.
Right.
Because not realizing I'm spending hundreds a week. Not just a month, hundreds a week.
Right.
Just driving, going. And
I spend that in 2 days now.
see,
Or
that's
not
what I'm
even
saying.
that.
And you drive a lot.
Yeah.
You drive every day. How many
Yeah.
bridges do you hit a
And
day?
like you said, I'm hitting at least one or two,
See,
depending.
but
I'm
every
hella
day at
cities.
least one bridge.
Yeah.
So every day, you got to think of gas, getting across the bridge.
Yeah.
That don't even count your food.
Look.
That don't count.
Yesterday, I spent $65 yesterday and did not get a full tank of gas.
See, that's crazy.
Right.
That's
And
crazy.
for those of us that drive bigger vehicles too,
Oh,
y'all know what I'm you know what I'm talking about. And yeah, when it's $100 and something to fill your gas tank, that's a different type of feeling, man. Yeah, you got to make some different decisions.
yeah, most definitely. And then you think about it. We are not showing our people how to be resourceful. So when our youth run out of things, and there are situations where parents can't do or won't do, they get desperate.
Right.
So you could say this desperation is by design. It's not just because of the times. They are designing it to make people this desperate. It's like they are trying to make the Terradome.
The real Jim Crow 2.0.
Yes, really.
Hey,
really.
now did you
'Cause then when
see that shit though?
Yes, and then you think about, okay, there are situations, but the situations that the people in our world live and the situations that the people that control our world live in are two totally different situations. We have to be more resourceful than the average person that's throwing away money and making calls.
Right.
You know what I mean? Somehow in society, we were fooled to try to live like them.
Right. I'm glad you said that too, cause yeah, that's what's going on right now.
But here's the cool thing about it. They don't even live like us.
Right.
They don't buy fancy all this and fancy all that and nice clothes every week and gold and jewelry and all this to show off in front of their friends.
Well, and that's why I was laughing, but I wanted to know too, because I wanted to bring, well, we could tie them in together, because that was going to be the next thing I was going to ask you about was the Jim Crow 2.0. I don't know if you heard about that in politics where they done brought that up now, and I'm going to explain why later, but the fact of what you were just saying is that because, it's programming. You know what I mean? Like you said, all of it is programming, and it's being done by design to influence us. Like you just said, whether it's looking at politics and you're thinking that it's okay to live like this, or because we're the United States, or you know what I mean, or like you said, this is how it's perceived that these are how our leaders are living, or different stuff. When in actuality, like you said, is they literally pulling the wool over your eyes. You know what I mean? To trick you out of it. And the whole thing about them announcing Jim Crow 2.0, because Trump is trying to get this new bill passed, the Save America Act, right? And like you were saying, as far as how even the leaders or, different people, they put this quote unquote propaganda, or they put this drama in front of us, you know what I mean? To make, they going back and forth, or they're trying to make it look like they go back and forth. So we respond to it a certain way, you know what I mean? And sway one side versus the other side, when in actuality, no matter which choice we make, they done already made, they done already set up the outcome, So the Democrats supposedly are referring to the Save America Act as Jim Crow 2.0. I thought that that was a reach because it doesn't, it's not the same. It's not the same. The stuff that was in the Save America Act, you know, Trump is basically asking for, everybody to get re-verified for voting. You know what I'm saying? I don't necessarily think that that's an issue. I think that, hey, we deal with a lot of fraud and scams nowadays as far as, and some of it, is not necessarily intentional because when you have elderly people or different things, it's easy. Well, the system is outdated anyway. You get what I'm saying? So, like with them, you're running off old operating systems. So you need to tighten it up. You know what I mean? There needs to be some updates as far as these computer systems that you guys have that's overseeing the voting, different stuff. So, yeah, for them to want to go around and get an accurate count or accurate, registration as far as who's voting, you know what I'm saying, the number of men, the number of women, and per location, I think that that's important. However, I don't think that that is in any way discriminating against anybody or the same as people not having a right to vote based off of their skin color. That's two different things. You know what I mean? The other part of the Save America Act had to do with transgender people, in regards to them not being able to play in sports, in women's sports and different things like that. People nowadays, like you said, they use these different words and they're trying to like change the meanings behind them. I don't consider that discrimination. I consider it discrimination or I don't consider it Jim Crow 2.0 because when we look at Jim Crow, we're looking at, okay, you weren't allowed to do nothing because of your skin color. You weren't allowed to vote. You weren't allowed to read. You weren't allowed to play sports. You wasn't allowed to sit certain places. You had to enter places a certain way if you were even allowed.
Go home a certain time.
Right, based off of your skin color. I don't see how any of that has anything to do with any of the stuff that Trump is talking about.
See, it's not.
But that's the way the Democrats, when you look on the news, that's how they speaking out about it.
But see, that's what you got to understand. First of all, it's a few layers of that because you can't pull off a magic trick in one. It's in layers.
Right.
Okay. Number one, the Democrats have to keep your mind. Okay, I'm gonna say confused. The reason why I say confused is because, see, when you're confused, when you're in shambles, you don't get a chance to think about the real things.
Right.
Okay? For instance, let's start at the very beginning. You say you're a Democrat, but the pledge to this country says to the republic for which it stands.
Right.
Okay, let's start there. Number two, we all know that the group you spoke of, and I say it that way is because it's so many, every time you try to say something respectful, they call it disrespectful. Oh, you can't call me that.
Or
you
discriminating.
Can't call me that.
Right.
The group you are talking about, we all know that they took the number one play that they use out of the KKK manual, and that is to involve yourself in everything. Be everywhere. You need a person in every walk of life from your organization. If you notice, they have involved themselves in everywhere,
right,
even in the places that's not for them. And the reason why I say it's not for them is because, okay, you have that group that does what they do, but soon as a person from my group wants to know what's going on and be treated fairly, oh, it's a problem, or you're hating, or you're some kind of phobia. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To whereas they're trying to nicely say, I don't belong there. And you're right, I don't. Just like they don't belong in certain places where my people are. Now, I'm irritated that I had to say it like that because it sounds so confusing. So I'm going to say it one time real quick. The alphabets have involved themselves in every walk of life, even the heterosexual sector of life. But they have not involved the heterosexual sector of life in their alphabet life. Right. Unless we change. They want to come over here and be themselves, but we can't be ourselves over there.
Right.
You feel me? In those senses, even as a heterosexual, sexuality came to me and kids at a certain time when it was morally correct. Now they have lowered the bar amongst the alphabets to where I even hear some alphabets say that that's too low. My thing is, let's keep it simple and let's not involve the kids. Let's let the kids grow up and make their own decisions about who they are and what they're going to be, since there's a bigger choice now. Because honestly, there shouldn't be a bigger choice, and I don't mean that disrespectfully, but there shouldn't be. Because across the board, when you give people too many choices, they won't make one.
Right. And that's what I didn't understand.
We have given our kids too many choices to whereas they aren't making any.
And that's what, like you said, I don't understand why people are having such an issue with it. But the more I think about what you were just saying, it makes sense because they want you to be confused.
Exactly.
So you won't make a choice.
Trump planned this 30 years. Let me see. Trump planned this 30 years ago, over 30 years ago, what he's doing right now. 30 years ago, he invested in, number one, he invested into women's rights. He said himself that he put the most money behind women's rights for two reasons. The two reasons was, if we give women's rights, that's another whole half a species that we could tax. Because remember, all the women was at home taking care of the house, and only the men worked.
Right.
But if we give them women's rights, that's a whole nother half a species that we can tax. And number two, which I think is really should be number one, is that these people will give us their kids earlier. Now, keeping that part in mind, keep giving us the kids earlier. Remember how they said Roseanne Barr was crazy because she said they eating babies? They killing and cooking babies and sacrificing kids. Now all of these underground railroads where they finding kids. Over the last 2 weeks, they say they found 140 kids one time, 1,600 another time or something. None of these houses are reporting that their kids is gone? What?
Right.
How is this? Come on, y'all. So they got to keep us confused. Amongst the Democrats and the liberals and the Republicans, they got to shake it up so we don't think about the real stuff like that. Like, where the hell is little Johnny at? Why he ain't home yet? We got so many parents out on drugs. We got to keep them sedated that they don't know we stole their kids.
Right.
And then, like I said, these kids aren't making any choices because you're giving them too many choices. That's right where this system want them so they can say, here, I'll make you take this choice. Shine that choice up, make it look good until you walk through the door. Then you never seen again.
And to me, that's what I was gonna say. Now that sounds more like Jim Crow 2.0.
Come on. It's the whole design of it.
The
It's
whole
the whole
design.
design of it. You know, one of my biggest wishes is I wish more melanated people read the Willie Lynch letter. Just read it. I don't want to give you my opinion on it, but just read it. Young men, I think it should be part of history when you come up in English class to have to read the Willie Lynch letter. You should. It's the basis of business today. Right now, we looking at, why is things like this? Why is things? If you read the Willie Lynch letter, you will see this is the basis of business today.
Right.
If we knew that, we'd probably value each other more. But we are property to them. We can call ourselves whatever we want to. To them, we still property. And they might not say it out loud as they used to. But the paperwork says it. The paperwork says that we are property. Most of us, especially if you're a black man in California, you will owe money the rest of your life. You will not pass away debt-free. And it's by design. To the point you can see on social media that there are people on social media that show you how to live within debt, having a better life. Let me show you how they want you to live, how you do it smart. You get this credit card, that credit card, woo, 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 woo. You know what I mean? They have that. They have online seminars, how to get out of debt, getting in debt. Right. That's how it is. They show you how to get in more debt to get out of debt. Which is crazy. They don't live like that. They live great by keeping us owing them. Because if you in debt, who do you owe? Yeah. The rabbit hole get big, man.
Right.
You know?
Especially because, like you said, too, if it ain't safe outside, so who you owe?
Come on.
That's
Come
what,
on.
going back to, like I was saying earlier, for all this stuff or all these different, like you said, these different, industries or these different, parts of government or just everyday living, if it's all of this going on, how who do you owe?
Yeah.
Especially
and why do you owe?
Right.
You paying for nothing to be done?
Yeah, in the first place. So how do you owe on top of having already paying? But speaking of which, it is getting close to that time, y'all, because we definitely, like I said, we just like y'all, got to make something shake. You know what I'm saying? We got to figure out how to climb out of this debt or how to get the next thing going. So with that being said, we are looking for sponsors here at Bay Life Radio. If you're interested, you know what I mean, we can help you promote your business, your event, your platform, you name it. You know what I'm saying? So it don't matter, if it's a business, a service, a product, let us help you push it. You know what I'm saying? So for more information, try to tap in with me or try to tap in with Igor. How you can do that, and that's also for artists too, like I said. So you could email at djigorbeats@gmail.com. We'll definitely get back to you. You can also hit me up, let's see, guess it's the streetlevel.impact@gmail.com. Make sure that you tell your folks to check us out, to follow us here on Twitch, or on YouTube or on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, you know, but definitely make sure that y'all subscribe to us though. Like I said here, twitch.tv/Baylife Radio, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel at Baylife Radio 510. Help us help you. Like I said, we all in this together, and that's the only way we gonna come out of it. You know what I mean? So we got to start making it make sense. You know, avoid the senseless stuff. And I mean, that's it for me. That's my I was about to say my 2 cents, but that's a few cents from me.
Right.
You know, and a whole, I don't know, Igor, it seemed like he gave y'all more than a few. Just now.
I had a few dollars
So,
for him. I ain't lying.
Right. So yeah, you know, hopefully y'all take time, you know, soak in some of what we were saying. And like I said, if you got some thoughts or, you know, you brainstorm, you come up with some ideas, share them with us. You know what I mean? Like you said, let's really expand this forum and, you know, try to really come up with some solutions, you know, because ain't nobody else going to do it for us. And, you know, like I said, we got to start right here, you know, on the street level and really make that impact. So with that being said, I'm finna get ready to get up out of here. Before I do go, I want to shout out my boy Jay for the chain. Y'all see, you know, like I said, it's, you know, custom artwork, you know what I mean, my logo. And also Fleetwood SF, you know, it's a local printing shop out of the city. I don't know if I shouted them out before, but I'm going to stand up real quick so y'all can see, you know, the hoodie that I got made there. You know? See, it's Fuck Ice on the front, and on the back it says, no one is illegal on stolen land. And, I mean, it's self-explanatory, but I just want to give them a shout out because, you know, those one of the people that we talking about. They're a local business. They were actually in the paper and on the news like a month ago for, you know, printing out this artwork and stuff. So if you get a chance, check them out. They out in the city on, excuse me, I want to say off Clement Street and like I think 8th Avenue. But, you know, y'all go check them out. You actually go in there and you take in a hoodie or a shirt or whatever it is you want, and they'll print on it for you. You know what I'm saying? For free. You know what I'm saying? I mean, of course, you know, whatever donations, you know, is greatly appreciated too, because they sitting there just like the rest of us, you know, trying to come together with some solutions to, you know, try to help us deal with some of the chaos that's going on out here, you know, ICE raids, as well as, like we said, just the overall division, you know, that's going on in this country and that's been going on. And like Igor was just saying, is, you know, it's to throw us off our game, to make us lose focus from the real agenda, you know, or to make us, you know, focus on something else when, you know, and giving people the opportunity to just get away with murder. And they already getting away with the money. You know what I mean? So, yeah, with that being said, like I said, I want to give a shout out to them. Thanks again, everybody, for listening and tuning in. And be sure you tune in next week. I mean, Baylife Radio is all through the week. You know what I mean? So you never know. You feel me? If anybody was checking us out on Tuesday. Was it Tuesday that I came through? I think Tuesday I came through.
All new show.
I stopped through on somebody else's show. You know, shout out to Canary the Comedian. You know what I'm saying? So, it's all of us. We all in this together. You know what I mean? Shout out to the team and everybody that's involved. So, you know, check out all the shows. I'm gonna just leave it at that. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna catch y'all next time. Baylife Radio. Let's get it. I gotta get in traffic and Get ready to burn out some more of this gas. And pay bridge tolls. Hey, that's crazy. Like I said, yeah.
Make live! Make live! Make live! Yes. Break dip, corner sharp like razor. Ghost rider whip, neighbors yelling y'all crazy. E40 slang, vocabulary gravy. Hustle so strong, lead a whole block hazy. Curbside chatter, deals under street lights. Hustle on the corner like a fiend, chasing green stripes. Knock steady, hitting speakers, bark like a pit. Street level impact, the ground might split. Street level impact, where the baseline crack. From the trunk to the block, no way to turn back.